Good evening. I will call to order the Finance Committee meeting on July 14th at 7:06. We have one item this evening on the agenda. It's a transfer request in the amount of $213,852. And I will begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find enclosed for your review and approval a transfer request in the amount of $213,852 from the PEG account to fund an upgrade to our permitting software system. The city is currently planning a permitting software upgrade to integrate all departments and make available online permitting. The IT department and inspectional services has researched what other communities are using, looked at numerous applications, and would like to move forward using OpenGov Cloud. Attached is a correspondence from IT Director Mark Gibbs outlining the plan, and he will be available along with the building commissioner to discuss the software upgrade and increased benefits. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Good evening, Director Gibbs.
Good evening.
You want to just fill us in on some of that?
Sure. So I'll give you the rundown of how we got to this point. So in the past 20 years or so, the city used a company called GOTMS, which was basically a basic access database that they ran for many years. It worked fine internally. It wasn't good online or remotely. And any work that needed to be done obviously needed to be done by GOTMS. About 5 years ago, or somewhere around there, Acela came in and wanted to get their footprint in Massachusetts and New England, and they bought GOTMS and offered GOTMS customers an upgrade to go into their platform, which they had. They came out and gave us a really nice dog and pony show, how it did this and that and everything. Looked really nice, and then after we went into the conversion, we got a lot of complaints from the building department and other companies, other departments complained about it, and come to find out that the way that Acela works is that basically they're the database, and you want to do any work, you go get yourself a consultant. So any changes or adds or moves or things that you need to do to the product, you hire a consultant, they make the change. So for example, if we lose the commissioner, we'll hire a company to come in and change the name on all the permits to the new commissioner's name. It's not as easy as it is in the Acela platform. Since they bought us, they had this Cape project. So they did, Acela converted a bunch of the towns in the Cape, Yarmouth, and all of them over to Acela. They have all since left Acela. And I think we're like the last city and town in Massachusetts on Acela. They've also been sold about 3 times since they purchased GOTMS to investment companies. So now they no longer are, they're owned by an investment company, and as you know how that goes, it's all about money, and they don't care about the product in the end. Well, they care about the product somewhat because it's got to make them money, but that's where it stands now. So in the process, we've been looking at different building softwares around Massachusetts, and we did come and find OpenGov. Right now, OpenGov has, I think, we will be the 100th city or town in Massachusetts to be on OpenGov, not included in the New England area, if you choose to go this route. With that, we've also had OpenGov. We've had, I think, 3 Teams meetings with OpenGovs with all the different departments. All the different departments have seen OpenGov, seen how it works, seen how easy it integrates, and so far we haven't had anybody say that they don't like this. So, but you never know what happens with that. There is some positive about this. We don't have to go out to a consultant to have any work done. If we want to change the name, it's pretty easy. We want to add a row to something, it's pretty easy as well. In the past, A lot of the consultants that did any of the conversions or any of the changes in the building department, for example, the plumbing department, they have new codes for this or new codes for that. All those changes will be transferred into the new system. So it'll work pretty well that way. The nice thing about it is, again, it's one piece of software that works with many departments within the city. It's not, employees don't normally like that. Employees like to have, I want my own software that only does what I only want it to do. You get that a lot, but it doesn't help when you're doing a driveway permit and the inspection people don't know because there's a different piece of software for that or whatever. This all integrates with all the departments. So it's good in that point. Also, it has the online permitting, OpenGov, so we'll be able to do online permitting. We'll be able to take credit cards, swipe your credit card, pay by credit card, and a lot of different things. One of my favorite features that I've seen through all these meetings that I sat in with OpenGov is the Joe the plumber guy who might live in Hudson or might live in Southborough. He's already signed up with OpenGov because he does a lot of cities and towns in Massachusetts. He gets up in the morning, logs in OpenGov, does a permit for Marlborough, sets up the permit, pays for his permit to do the water tank replacement, gets the email back, all approved, goes off, does his job. I mean, it's that simple. As long as it's set up that way, and it's going to be. So that's one thing. Another downside we had with the other applications that it didn't integrate very well. Every time we wanted to do, there was new roads, new codes around the city and all that. It never gets into the Acela or GOTMS quick enough because you have to do a manually export and import of all those updates. Well, now with this software, we'll be able to do it automatically. We are going to key on Vision, which is our software to do all the assessments of other homes and buildings and all that. So we are going to key on Vision to be the database source for the city for all these kinds of applications. So, for example, if somebody gets a zoning change, that happens, you guys do zoning changes, right? I mean, stuff like that. So when that stuff happens, it's going to happen in Vision, and we're all going to get the data from Vision and all the other ones. Because right now, in Acela, if there was a zone change done in the past year or two, it's not in the permitting software. So when somebody goes out and says, oh, you can't have this on the sidewalk, they didn't know that the zone changed or anything because it's in the engineering department, not in Vision and not in Acela. So we want to try to get that as the sole database. So when things happen, they get written to Vision, and then it gets sent to all the other applications.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's our goal.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I just I wanted to follow too. I wanted to thank Director Gibbs too for answering my questions via email.
Right.
It was worth a shot.
Yep.
And another plus, I liked that this software is going to communicate with Munis on the financial side. So that's going to be, I think, a plus.
There's certain things it can work with, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councilor.
Well, and
Yep.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that was one of my comments. I'm glad it interacts to some degree with Munis. You threw me off a little bit, Mark, when you mentioned Visions. Is that part of OpenGov, or is it another program?
So Vision is the assessor software, so all the assessments and all that stuff
okay.
in Vision, so zoning ordinance, all the mapping, all that kind of stuff is in Vision. So when things get changed, we want the change to be done in Vision first. I'm not saying that I'm not saying like when you get a fence put in or something, that permit goes in Vision. It goes in OpenGov, but Vision will have all that, the data that it needs to do that permit.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I just have a couple
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
So I've worked with this type of software program for years. Different company, but I'm familiar with it. I'm curious, Mark, so if someone went out for a building permit and it was for an addition, will the program automatically email the appropriate departments like the assessors and the Board of Health if they run a septic system or a well?
Yeah, so it'll send those emails and in the workflow process. This whole here, I feel like I'm at Fenway Park or something. It's been an obstruction view. So.
Yeah, I know, we got to cut that one down.
Yeah, just cut this pole down. So yes, it does do that. It will send, and through the workflow, it will do that. For example, if it needs a fire permit, the fire person that's in charge of permits in the fire department will get that email to sign off on it. So yes, it will do that.
And you and I spoke just before the meeting. I was just curious, in the other program that I work with, many southern communities are working with that other competitor, which is nice. As you say, a builder can come in and he can say, listen, I work in 5 towns. He just uses his access code number. I asked you, and you said you can answer it. Nearby cities or towns that use
So I think
OpenGov?
Northborough and Southborough, I believe, are in it. I don't know exactly, but I know there's 100 cities and towns in Massachusetts that use OpenGov.
Okay.
They don't want to give me the list of all the names and who because they're competitors or whatever, but in one of the teams meetings, we did record the teams meeting, and it did come up with a map with all the cities, so. I
And
could
just
always
one
go
other
back
question,
there.
Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mark. One other question, and it's related to what happened to me, actually, with the food program. We didn't own the information. Unfortunately, the company that had that information, we had to buy it from them. Now, when we utilize OpenGov and pay the contract fee, will we own the information that we're populating?
Yeah, so we own the information now that's in Acela, and OpenGov told me that they've done Acela conversions, so our data will be converted back into. There is one little worry that I worry about with the conversions of the data is that when we did the GOTMS, there was some records that were so old that they were put in Acela, but they weren't put in like the normal view, I guess you would say. So that's one of my concerns. I just want to make sure that that data is accessible and that everybody knows where to find that and how to find that data.
And I presume you'll be checking that before we
Yes,
go in.
I hope
You
so.
approve this before we go into a contract.
As far as I know, I don't know every permit from years
no,
ago, but
no,
I mean,
I-
the building department, I could get help with them.
But that's important, that we own the information that we're populating.
Yes.
And hopefully it can be converted. You answered my second question. Right now, is Acela's data owned by us, and can we transfer it
Yeah.
over? So thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome, Council. Council Perman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm gonna have to work with this poll
Yeah,
right
I
here,
had
so
my
sorry,
back
no. No, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate, you going through the effort to find a more effective system. I can imagine that the transfer of information will take a long time, or at least be something that you're paying a lot of attention to, so we greatly appreciate that. And I was just really excited to see the further uses section. I know if you can speak a little bit about that. Particularly, I know residents have connected with me about wanting to do dog licensing online and other types of permits, and so was just curious if you could speak to what would be necessary to make that happen so that there is an online vehicle for people to do some of that, resident to city payments.
Yeah, so dog license is one of those things. I've spoken with Steve in the clerk's department. We have a dog licensing application right now that we use that was built in-house by one of my guys who no longer is with us anymore. He was a database programmer. I don't have a programmer in the house anymore, so it works. It's there. We'd love to get that data into OpenGov so it can be easily accessible online and stuff. And, I think there's the ability to look up like dog licenses and too, like if somebody's dogs, your neighbor has a dog, you want to make sure that they're permitted or whatever, I guess you can do that.
Okay, so to clarify, does this mean the housing only of the information, or also the interaction of someone else with the information, or
I
only?
think the interaction with someone else
Okay.
as well. So, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Council Dumas.
If there's no other discussion, motion to approve.
I do have one other question, but Rob, were you going to?
Let me, oh, Council Doucette.
Sorry, David.
Sorry, Council Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do got a couple of questions. So OpenGov is a workflow system, I understand that. So if it comes to permitting and stuff like that, if someone requests a building permit, electrical permit, that immediately kicks off into inspection services. Someone needs to make the call to visit the place, get the paperwork on that end all completed. Right now, they have the red paper and everything whenever you pull a, permit. That's not going to change, or would that
Yeah,
change?
so they still will be able to print that permit out and make it visible wherever they are.
Right, okay.
And there's a lot of things it can do. I know that, I don't know if we'll ever do that here, but I know that in Brookline, I think it is, that some of the restaurants, they have little things on their windows saying that they're A+ for their food inspections or whatever. I don't know if you ever see those things.
Right, I've seen them in other
So
communities.
it does all that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
it depends
So-
on how far you want to go. I'm hoping that each department, we can get an A-team player from each department that'll rise up and embrace this and move forward and make it work the best it can work. Because I can't make the Board of Health do stuff like that because I know nothing about food inspection. I'll eat anywhere. I eat at Chinese restaurants, so I don't know anything about that, but they do. So I'm hoping that people within those departments can step up, and I know the mayor's talked about that, working with these guys to make sure that they utilize this software to its,
Full
fullest
potential
means.
type of thing, yeah. You were talking about, so it's going to be it sounds like it's going to be possible to, like, within a given address, find out what permits were pulled for that particular address.
Yes, oh, absolutely. That should definitely, we're going to utilize our GIS software that we have today, and it does integrate with the GIS software. I think Franklin is doing it right now, so when you go to a house address, you can see all the permits that were pulled for that address.
So that's something that's considered transparent and not private? Meaning, I can look up Christian's
You can see
information?
it now.
Yeah,
It's on there now.
yeah.
Okay, so the permit history is public
Yes.
public
It'll be
information.
more detailed and it will be able to utilize it a lot better. It's very basic right now,
was
but I
wondering
would
you
like
could
to
start-
see
sorry.
more.
Oh, I caught it. Making notes.
Okay, and just for my own clarification, my apologies for being a little late here, but this is a migration from the older system to the new system, right? Is there an additional upfront charge for that migration, or is that pretty much being
Yeah, so
amortized?
the migration is built into it, the cost. I think it's like 80-something thousand a year for the software.
And how many years is the contract for?
It's just year-by-year contract. They're on the state bid list, so we're gonna make sure that we have 5 years in to evaluate everything, make sure everything works, and then
Okay.
move forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Tenera.
So, sorry about talking to the back of my head here, but
Looks good.
thanks. Don't mind the bald spot. So anyways, so we're spending $213,000. So would we have spent on upgrades to the old system? Is this money additional to, you know what I mean? Because we would have had to upgrade our older system, right, of some sort?
So there's no hardware costs. It's all conversion costs and licensing. So it's $80,000 a year for the licensing every year. And then the extra money on top of it, so 80,000 minus 213, that's what it costs to convert the data that we have now, pull the data, convert it, put it in the right format, and get all the reporting and all that working properly. That's what that money is for.
Okay, very good.
Councilor Jim?
I think Council Dooms had something to say.
Does Council Orm have any?
I can wait. I'll yield to others.
Just gonna motion to approve.
Oh, okay, you're ready to move it. If I may, I just had a couple questions. One was with the Assessors Department Visions, which I didn't realize, I always call it Marlborough Bill Pay, but excellent system, and I pay through my checking account, which I get no charge for that. Is that going to be available to the builders or whoever else uses this system to not have a charge?
Yeah, so it's gonna work the same way. It's something to do with, again, I'm not a finance expert, but what it does is it's the access right, because I think like some places, some some things you can't use, like MasterCard. You can only use Visa, and some you can do pay by debit from your account, so it doesn't cost you anything. So yes, it works the same way across all city stuff. So it's not the division software that does that, it's the finance way of receiving the money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's more in-house.
Yeah, because I think there's some kind of, I don't know what it is, but it's crazy, because I know when the transfer station, not dump, the transfer station was taking credit cards for the stickers, you couldn't use a MasterCard, you could only use Visa. And that's something to do with a contract with the state or something, I don't know, but.
Well, and if I can add, it was good to hear that this is the initial upfront cost. Next year, we won't see more than a request for 80,000, it sounds like.
That is correct.
That's always good to hear. And why is it that you follow me around the city when I go out to eat? Is it that
You
you
eat
use
at good
me
places,
for
I guess.
knowledge? Anyways, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hoping to pick up a tab.
Council Landers.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, if we move forward on this, what would be your time? You have to wait till January 1st to do a lot of this conversion, or?
No, we're gonna get right on it right away. I mean, we want to start moving with this. I mean, I think, I would say 3 months, we should be in good shape, hopefully. I'd like to see that, to get the building, they're the ones that use it the most. I'd like to get them up and running and working flawlessly on it, and then pull the other departments in.
That makes sense.
But I would like to get them all in, especially the Board of Health.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Landers. No further questions, I will entertain a motion.
There was already a motion on the table.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8325, a transfer request in the amount of $213,852, which moves funds from PEG fund to IT equipment to fund an upgrade of our current permitting software. All in favor? All opposed? Zero. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, does Mark need a suspension?
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Do you need a suspension on our next meeting, Mark?
I would motion to request a suspension at
Okay,
the
well,
city council
thank you,
meeting.
Mr. President. Thank you, Council. We will, the finance team is okay with the suspension? One.
I would appreciate that, because to move as quick as possible to get this thing rolling, so.
Thank you, Director Gibbs.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? We are adjourned at 7:28. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Under the wire.